Have you ever found yourself in a conversation that you didn't know how to continue? Well, you're not alone. We've all been there at some point or another, but fear not, because today, we're going to explore common phrases that can help keep the conversation going. Our first phrase is, "What do you think about?" This is a great conversation starter, especially when discussing a new topic. For example, you could say, "What do you think about the current state of climate change?" Moving on, we have, "Tell me more about." This works best when you want to delve deeper into a topic that the other person is knowledgeable about. For instance, "Tell me more about your time in Spain." Next up is, "What's your take on?" This phrase is perfect for gauging someone's opinion on a specific topic. For example, "What's your take on the latest fashion trends?" "I've never considered that perspective before. Please elaborate." This phrase shows that you're open to new ideas and want to understand the other person's viewpoint better. For instance, "I've never considered that perspective before. Please elaborate on your thoughts about artificial intelligence." "Could you expand on that?" is another useful phrase. Use it when you want more information or clarification. For instance, "Could you expand on that concept of mindful eating?" When someone has made an interesting point, you could say, "Interesting point, can you explain further?" For example, "Interesting point about renewable energy, can you explain further?" "I'm curious, what led you to that conclusion?" This phrase shows that you're interested in the person's thought process. For example, "I'm curious, what led you to conclude that self-driving cars are the future?" "That's fascinating, could you share more details?" is a phrase that shows your interest and encourages the other person to share more. For instance, "That's fascinating about your research on marine life. Could you share more details?" "I'm intrigued, can you give me more insight into?" This phrase indicates that you're keen to learn more. For example, "I'm intrigued, can you give me more insight into your photography techniques?" "I'd love to hear your thoughts on," is a phrase that invites the other person to share their opinion. For instance, "I'd love to hear your thoughts on the new book by J.K. Rowling." "I'm interested to learn more about your thoughts on." This phrase shows that you're interested in the other person's opinion. For example, "I'm interested to learn more about your thoughts on sustainable living. Do you have any recommendations for?" This phrase is perfect for asking for advice or suggestions. For instance, "Do you have any recommendations for Italian restaurants in the city? Could you tell me a bit more about your experience with?" This phrase can be used to learn more about someone's personal experiences. For instance, "Could you tell me a bit more about your experience with remote work?" That's a unique perspective. Can you delve deeper into it? This phrase is great when you want the other person to elaborate on an interesting viewpoint. For example, "That's a unique perspective on modern art. Can you delve deeper into it?" "I'd like to understand your viewpoint better. Could you elaborate?" This phrase is useful when you want to understand the other person's perspective better. For instance, "I'd like to understand your viewpoint better. Could you elaborate on why you prefer traditional education over online learning?" "How did you get into?" This is a great question to ask when you want to know more about someone's hobbies or career. For example, "How did you get into mountain climbing?" Lastly, "Check this out," is a phrase that you can use when you want to share something interesting or exciting. For instance, "Check this out, I just discovered this amazing new band." In conclusion, these phrases are tools that can help keep the conversation flowing. They show your interest in the other person's thoughts and experiences, encourage them to share more, and provide opportunities for deeper, more meaningful conversations. So, the next time you find yourself in a conversation that's losing steam, try using some of these phrases. You might be surprised at how effective they can be.